We're live on the Joy News channel, live on Joy 99.7 FM. We're on DSTV channel 421, Go TV is 125. We're live on myjoyonline.com as well as all our social media platforms. It's been, 3 years already, and the tenure of Yaw Boafo is ending, and the leadership of the Ghana Bar Association in a matter of days are preparing to hand over to another regime in a crucial election about to take place at its annual bar conference happening in Kumasi starting today, 8th to the 13th of September 2024, on the theme, Peaceful, Fair and Transparent Elections, the Key to Sustainable Democracy. The Asantehene Otumfuo Seitu II, the President, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, and her leadership, the Chief Justice Gertrude Torkornoo, and the leader of the Bar and Attorney General Minister of Justice Godfred Yeboah-Dame are all set to address this particular bar conference. Of course, this Ghana Bar Association leadership in particular have seen a number of criticism under its particular tenure, amongst others that is become very, very silent, especially under the NPP government. This is not the only Ghana Bar Association that has seen this particular criticism. Over the period, there's been a number of criticism of the bar that a number of issues are happening in this country, yet the bar remains silent, unlike what we know previously that characterizes the leadership of the Ghana Bar Association. Let's go through a few of these criticisms that we've seen over the period. And tonight, the Joy Research Desk has put together a few of these criticisms, and their perceived inactivity on critical national issues is the key one, at least since we searched on the internet, amongst others. These are the key things that have come up in terms of their inactivity on critical national issues. Accusations of partisanship by opposition figures, also the limited vocal stance on human rights violations in the country, also the concerns over selective advocacy and silence on government excesses is what the Ghana Bar Association has been criticized for. At least we've heard from the former president and flag bearer of the NDC. It says, if you are concerned with people's rights, if you are concerned with protecting human rights and freedoms, you must be consistent under any administration, and not only concerned under some administration and not under other administrations. At least that's the first criticism, at least, from former President John Dramani Mahama. He also goes on to say, does the GBA go to sleep when NPP is in power and wakes up when the NDC comes? We will see in 2025 whether you, the GBA, will wake up when the NDC is in power. The least mistaken, GBA has issued a press release. You know it's true. And that's another criticism from former President John Dramani Mahama. So what has the GBA done in particular under this particular administration? That's the NPP government. There have been calls for stringent measures against corruption. At least we've seen that happen. There have been criticism of government handling of illegal mining, Galamsey. A lot of people have said that the GBA has not spoken up when it comes to the Galamsey. But of course, it's worsened under this particular administration. At least we've seen increasing space. We've done a number of documentaries about the Galamsey issues, but we've seen one statement so far from the Ghana Bar Association. Is that enough? Will there be more in the coming days? Is what we live to see. And then also advocacy for responsible media practices. We've seen that under the GBA. They've issued statements to that effect. Statements on political violence and election-related issues. The GBA has spoken about these issues as well. And they had a response to the former President Mahama. Of course, Xavier Kudje spoke extensively to us on these issues and says people with high influence of the stature of Mr. Mahama shouldn't be saying this. Don't forget he's a candidate vying to rule this country. Should he win this election, he's coming to superintend on these institutions. And that was the criticism of former President Mahama's comments about the GBA and its inactivity and the fact that it wakes up when the NDC is in power. And also goes on to say, to make allegations that they've been packed with NPP-aligned judges. That is unfortunate. That's when the former president talked about the judges, the Supreme Court judges, the unanimous FC, amongst others. Mr. Mahama is a man of influence, and whatever he says carries a lot of weight. And that's the criticism of Mahama, especially when he talks about the Supreme Court and his criticisms of the judiciary. Tonight, the Ghana Bar Association is in focus. On the probe, we will be engaging the outgoing president, Mr. Yaw Boafo, right here on the probe. We're joining him live from Kumasi as they get ready for this particular conference. Mr. Boafo, thank you so much for joining us here on the probe.
Thank you, Mafa.
Good to have you. We'll get talking shortly, but I must first find out if all is set for the bar conference. Maybe briefly, then we'll go for a break and then we get talking.
Well, everything is set, and we are expecting to have maybe the best conference ever. Everything is set.
Good. We'll take a quick break. When we return, we'll get talking. You want to stay right here on the Joy News channel. You're welcome back to The Probe here on the Joy News channel on Joy 99.7 FM, myjoyonline.com, all our social media platforms. And my guest tonight is the president of the Ghana Bar Association, Mr. Yaw Boafo, joining us live from Kumasi as they prepare for the bar conference, which is happening in Kumasi starting today all the way to the 13th of September 2024. And tonight, a number of issues have come up. Of course, we'll talk about his tenure, all the issues that have come up under his tenure and going forward, what his expectations are. And you've been telling me about preparations and how ready you are for the conference that's already underway. Mr. Boafo, welcome once again. So I know the bar conference moves around a lot, but let's focus on the choice of Kumasi this time around as you prepare to round up. Really, there must be a particular reason why you chose to go to Kumasi.
No, there's no particular reason. We have a 10-year program, so it rotates. And it's just that coincidental, this year is Kumasi.
Okay, well, that's good to know. But as you wrap up, though, you've been telling me about preparations, but let's talk about it. What are expectations as the bar conference for this year starts, you'd say?
Well, this year we've had the largest number ever. We've had about 2,300 in-person participants and about 450 virtual participants. That's about slightly short of 2,800 for both virtual and in-person. But you know, the bar, it's really way ahead of so many institutions. So we've employed technology to handle these things. We're using facial recognition technology, NFC, and other things to control our numbers and to provide the services. So everything is on course.
Okay. Well, I was just going to the facial technology. Why really? Why are we introducing such a system this time around, you'd say?
You know, our numbers require that we actually control, we actually make sure that those who have registered are the ones who are going to have access to these events, because you know these things are very expensive. Mm-hmm. One thing that we've noticed is that we started using technology. Now our conference registration is on our portal, okay, and the deadline was on 16th August. But one thing that we've noticed, you know, typical of Ghanaians, is that everybody waits, and then when the portal shuts down, you have a lot of people who could not register. But then, you know, you cannot stop somebody from actually physically being present. And we've had that experience in Ho and in Cape Coast. So we've now adopted technology that will make sure that only those who have registered would have access to any event so that we can control our cost.
Okay, but explain to me, is it the case that lawyers who pay their dues will have to also pay for this conference before they are allowed to vote to elect who would lead them? Is that, maybe you provide that clarity, then I'll follow up with a question on that.
In our constitution, that election is a conference.
I think I would.
No general conference before you are entitled to vote.
Okay, so the concern is if a dues-paying lawyer does not pay for this residential conference, does it mean that they are disenfranchised?
Well, I wouldn't say disenfranchised. What I would say is that the Constitution makes it clear that elections can only be held during the annual general conference. That's the only period that we have elections. Mm-hmm. So you have to be registered for the conference before you can participate in the election.
Okay, so if that did not happen, what then happens to such a lawyer? Even though they are full due-paying lawyer? Well,
you would not have the right to vote, yes. That's right.
So they are disenfranchised?
You have to understand that we have about 7,000 lawyers in active practice, but only about 2,800 who have the right to vote.
Okay, so technically they are disenfranchised, Mr. Boafo.
Well, disenfranchising is where you have you are prevented from doing something, maybe because of maybe an error on the part of an electoral body or some legal, maybe an error on the part. This one is a voluntary decision taken by an individual not to participate. It's just like deciding not to show up at at your polling station to vote in an election. You know, you're not disenfranchised. You have decided not to exercise your option to vote.
Okay. Well, let's talk about your administration. Let's zoom into it. Your tenure as the Ghana Bar Association. If you were to describe it yourself, what would be your own assessment of your tenure as the bar president?
I will not engage in self-assessment. I mean, the thing is that this is a public office, president of a professional body. I think the most important thing for me is how do my colleagues consider my tenure? Because, you know, for somebody outside, he may have his own view of what the Ghana Bar Association is. The most important thing for me that is really important would be how do members of the bar generally see what happened during my tenure? And that's a question that I cannot answer.
But I know for sure, Mr. Boafo, knowing you, that you must be interested. You found out what your colleagues are saying about your tenure as president of this prestigious professional association in this country. What did you pick up?
No, I think that, you see, there is this dichotomy that we have to establish. There is the Ghana Bar Association that essentially is a professional body catering for the welfare of its members. And that's one thing. And there's a Ghana Bar Association that people expect it to do something else. So the assessment is not on an even keel. That's what I'm saying, that the Ghana Bar Association primarily is a professional association of lawyers. That is its primary responsibility, catering for the needs of its members and the welfare of its members. The activism part is just one part of the things that we do. But it looks like at times people think that the Ghana Bar Association was essentially set up as an activist organization without doing anything.
Yeah.
I don't want to maybe do a comparison, but you know, in some time we were very analog, we were very manual, we had a basic secretariat. Now we're way advanced. I mean, I don't think that there's any professional body that has a portal like us. We use people. I mean, I think we are way ahead of even the country when it comes to the use of technology. Now, our members, within 5 minutes, can have their licenses renewed. The NFC, near field technology that we're using we are using mobile scanners, access thing. People get things in real. We have a GBA app. If you come to our secretariat at 15 Hill Selassie menu, it's one of the best in West Africa. You know, these are the things that we've done for our members. We've provided the services. So the issue is that it depends on the particular member's priority. Some people would want a Ghana Bar Association that may be stuck up in some old era, but is always issuing statements every second. Others too are very comfortable when the bar sticks to its core mandate of being a professional body. Yeah. That is why it's very difficult to have some base. It will depend on an individual's member's priority.
Okay. I'm glad that you've actually drawn that line in terms of the dichotomy that you talk about, at least. With welfare, we're sticking on welfare because you've outlined a number of things that at least has been done so far. And for you, at least in terms of the assessment, you say that when it comes to your core responsibility of looking out for the over 7,000 members that you have as lawyers, you have executed excellently, you'd say.
Well, as I'm saying that would be for whether it's excellent, very good, good, satisfactory, average, or poor. That would be for members to decide. I mean, I think that I find it a bit vain to engage in self-assessment and self-adulation. I think it doesn't really do you very well, because at times it also takes away the opportunity for you to maybe improve or get better. You know, as a human institution, there is always the case for opportunity for improvement and to get better. So I always engage my colleagues. That's what I'm saying, that I will not really sit there and assess myself that I'm the greatest president or the worst president or the average president. I've led a national executive committee and a general council to run the affairs of the bar, till I leave on 4th November. But I think there's one thing that I have to clear. You know, MFA, I think that we suffer in this country because of our constitutional history. Since 1960, our constitutions have created imperial executive precedents. And we seem to think that every association's precedent is like what our constitution has created. So at times, a lot of people think that the GBA president is somebody who can maybe by just word of mouth reverse things. Even if you look at our constitution, the day-to-day running of the association is by the National Executive Committee, for the simple reason that the same people who elect the president elect the vice president, the secretary, the PRO, the national stamp PRO. The bar president does not appoint any of his executive members. So you need their buy-in, your cooperation. You cannot just come and say, I am president, this is what I can do. So I think that because people are used to having that imperial president, the monarch of all that I survey constitutionally, we've brought it to the bar. You know, I think that without boasting, the bar presidency is maybe the most foremost prestigious, honorable professional association president because of our history and our peculiar history. So at times people think that, look, just as we have an executive president who can literally appoint, do everything, the bar president, the bar is not like that. A classic example is recently there was this thing about our decision at annual general conference to have full cost recovery for our conferences. Our constitution makes it clear that every lawyer is bound by a decision of annual general conference. And I was trying to explain these things to lawyers that as president, I'll be impeached if I attempt to reverse it. I can't even do it. I mean, nobody's even going to listen to that. So at times, people should understand the peculiar role of the president of the Ghana Bar Association. I think that these days, a lot of conversation is going on constitutional reform, trying to limit the powers of the presidents. People can actually learn from our experience. So you see, a Ghana Bar Association president exists if you have the cooperation of your National Executive Committee members, your General Council members, and your annual General Conference and membership as well. That is why at times you see a lot of people in the public space attacking us, making state allegations against that. Well, that's based on their own assessment. Of course, it's a very public office, so those things are part of it. But we must understand the peculiar role of the GBA president. He's not that imperial executive president that we've been used to since 1960.
Is it a conference decision also for the GBA, at least the largest criticism or the main criticism that I've heard so far, at least we know the GBA over the period. Is it a conference decision for the GBA to become silent on raging national issues?
You see, I make this statement that we don't read the book of Lamentations in the time of Hebrews. I don't know how people don't seem to get it that activism under military rule is different from activism under a constitutional democracy. Let's get this thing clear. This is the first time in the history of our nation that we've had 30 years of continued constitutional rule. No generation has seen it before. So the days where you have truncation of constitutional democracies every 2 years, and you know the daily existence of the state itself was problematic, is different from this era. You know, you cannot use analog materials in the time of digital. So the issue that I keep on drawing people's attention is that activism generally has changed. Do we get nooks going at a looter like the days of the 70s and the 80s? Does the T used to do the things that we did? Look, when the GBA is attacking the champion government for Unigov or the PNDC era, it's totally different from a constitutional democracy. That is something that people...
You are taking us way back.
Intro, this issue...
You are taking us way back. This analog digital issue you're talking about.
No, I'm just
we are talking about a democracy under the NDC government, which the GBA was the loudest when it comes to national issues. But it appears you've gone to sleep under the NDC.
No, MFA, I've asked this... No, let me draw your attention. Let me draw this. I've asked this question, and nobody's answered it. I've asked anybody to point out since 2001, when President Kufuor took office, to now, what an MPP president did that the bar kept quiet, that an NDC president did that the bar condemned. You see, there is one thing that we forget about the peculiar nature of our political dimension. The PNDC metamorphosed into the NDC. So you have, it's like a corporate takeover of liability. At times, this allegation that the bar is anti-NDC is the PNDC era. Look, I'll give you one example. The first bar president that the GBA paid a courtesy call was Professor J.E.A. Mills. The first bar president was Professor J.E.A. Mills. And I'm telling you that I just want you people to tell me that, oh, during President Mohammed's time or President Mills' time, he did this, the bar attacked him. But President Akufo-Addo did the same thing in the bar. Most people forget that when President Kwame Tete was in office, that would be from 2005 and four coming down. He made the point that the bar has reached a stage where we have to draw the line between what is political and what is unconstitutional. Look, MFA, let us get this thing straight. For example, if a government says that I want to introduce free SHS, another part says that it is not feasible.
Yeah.
Where do you want the bar to stand? One thing that you have to understand is that in this era, civil society groups have come out. They don't have the burden that the bar has. Look, I hold an office from RS Blade to 24/7. That has Joe Appiah, Victor Wusu, and these individuals. A GBA president cannot afford the gaps and jumping around from radio station commenting on any other things. Okay. Because most of the time, the things that are in the public domain are actually political matters. For example, if a government says that I want to, like, for example, when President Mills was campaigning, he said, oh, he was going to have one-time premium. What's that got to do with the bar? Those are decision, political matters. But these days, you have CSOs in health, in governance. They will spend their time discussing these matters. That is something that the bar must be very, very cautious. Because I remember, because you see, I started up going through the bar. I've always been there. In 2001, we were in Sunyane. The late J. Ebukwashi had gone out, I think the media called him, and without clearing with his counsel, came out to say that the bar is against the government going HEPI. And he was questioned at the council, general council, what has the government done wrong if it goes HEPI? And then you saw the problem with Neo Sam Mills making a statement in public contrary to what the council had said and everything. So one thing that you have to understand is that where has the bar kept quiet? But one thing that also the bar must also complain. This is my third conference. I want the media to go and pick my whole conference speech, my Cape Coast conference speech. I condemned the government on corruption. I was the one who called for prosecution of those for Galamsey, not the hide hands that we get on things. Everything, media attacks. Then the media decided to highlight what the Attorney General said. And last year that the president had described President Mahama as a perennial flag bearer. Look.
But you had the opportunity, like Mr. Boafo. Maybe I can come in at this point, Mr. Boafo. By speaking at the bar conference once about a situation, and maybe for some reason you say that the media did not highlight what you said about that. What we know, at least, I've seen a number of statements in this line of duty from the Bar Association on issues that you feel should be brought to the front burner. And at least in issues about Galamsey, since you've raised it, I've seen one statement so far. Is it the case that after that statement or after the main conference statement that you made, you're satisfied with actions that have been taken by this particular government when it comes to Galamsey in particular? Since you've mentioned it, let's go there.
Look, MFA, are we being accused of keeping quiet or not following up action? You see, the point is that last in whole, this thing happened. In Cape Coast, we actually also organized a second press conference at the College of Physicians so that we get traction. The media would not consider it. I'll give an example. When I was National Secretary, and we had this re-registration exercise and all this process, we issued a statement, condemned the Minister for State for doing everything. I mean, the thing just got locked and I don't know how it fizzled out. And then I remember when I was National Secretary, President Mahama led a delegation of the National Democratic Congress in 2019 to come and engage the bar stakeholder thing. And this issue came up there, and we drew the NDC's attention that this is what we have done. I was surprised that when that minister was coming for it, now the then minority leader, Haruna Iddrisu, then had the bar statement. See, the issue for me is that at times people set their own agenda.
Is that the
and
case?
They're looking for validation from the GBA's powerful voice. You see, that is where we seem to come, because at times when the GBA in its decides that, okay, fine, this is the time, we are going for an annual general conference. That is the highlight. And I have never understood how a professional body has a conference and its national president's speech is censored. Now, the council talks about these things. Now, the president is invited, the attorney general is invited, everybody is invited. And then, because of the very partisan environment we find in the news thing, it becomes very political. And then accusations. For example, last year, we don't have an advanced copy of the president's speech. Mr. Sylvia Kujia, speaking on behalf of the bar, rightly said that bit about the president's speech, that was political, the bar was against. But we're accused of having given a platform to the government to campaign. I don't know which platform that means. So at times, what people are actually looking for is validation of their position by the GBA.
Okay.
Now, one of the things that we also should, that's one of the things that we must understand in this context. Because what hasn't the bar, what has the bar kept quiet? The bar has compromised. That's what I'm saying, that MFA, I would want your research team to do this, or ask anybody. You know this thing that you said, President Mahama said to accuse the bar. We didn't even respond until Mr. Sylvia Kujia was doing an interview and he came back. We did not respond because we don't want to get involved.
These are issues that we'll get into.
But you see,
but I do not want us to move quickly.
At times, I think maybe because of the pedagogy of our educational system, there's a bit of recitals and rote learning. When somebody starts a chant, everybody follows. I've said this thing, that I'm looking for an event, maybe President Akufo-Addo did this and the bar clapped or the bar kept quiet. Exactly the same thing. If you look at the bar generally, from 2004 coming down, there has been a general toning down, because we've moved from the days of public tribunals, abductions without trials, and you know those things, to situations where people who even accused of corruption are brought before courts of competent jurisdiction.
Okay.
Now, when those matters come before court, for example, when a matter comes before court, our politicians decide to get involved. This one says this one says, and then all of them will be accusing the GB of keeping quiet. You know, for example, when matters go to the courts today, and our politicians take partisan positions, then they turn around to accuse the GBA. In my Matters Day speech, I made it clear that let the politicians pay the judiciary. How many cases are determined in courts on every single day? One case comes and everybody thinks that's the only thing the judicial system does. If, for example, a very politically exposed individual is being tried, what is going to happen? The party in power would clap for the prosecution. The party in opposition would say that it's witch hunting. The GBA, and then the party will say the GBA has kept quiet. I mean, these are some of the problems that we face. There is a very toxic environment out there. Let's just admit it, a very toxic environment out there. And that environment, the tension, the decibel levels have gone high. And people just want the GBA to be part of that thing. No. We have a powerful, that doesn't mean that we have to keep idle or we are not going to do other things.
Okay.
But,
well, I'll talk about the toxic environment that you talk about. I'll talk about the toxic environment you talk about, because amongst that toxicity
I'm just saying that
is the issue about the fact that the GBA is highly political now. The issue is that the GBA has become highly political. But that's an issue I want you to chew on. I'll come back to it because I want us to finish. I want us to finish the Galamsey issue. Mr. Boafo, let's do this quickly. I want us to finish on the Galamsey issue. Knowing what you know now in terms of the situation, it's gotten out of hand, people have said. Does the GBA have a position? As we speak today, Mr. Boafo, as we speak today, the GBA, do you have a position on the Galamsey menace and how it should be dealt with?
The GBA, as I'm saying, the GBA has had a position.
You had back then. It was not as bad as it is now. It wasn't as bad as it is now. At the time, you were asking that officers who were involved should be called out and dealt with. That's what you said. As we speak today, Mr. Boafo, what's the GBA's position on Galamsey?
The GBA's position has always been that
Which is?
Have to get to the bottom of it. I mean, the thing is that you see, this at some point, we've said it, we said it in 2022, 23. We've repeated before some of the people accusing us even thought about it. So the question is that, are we saying that, okay, if the GBA doesn't repeat its statement every instance, the GBA is gone quiet? Absolutely no. That is our position. We spoke first before all the people speaking now. In 2022, when it wasn't big, the GBA took the lead. Now it's gotten bigger, the GBA is being blamed for keeping quiet. You see, the issue is, when the GBA issues a statement, we need the media to broadcast it. We don't have our own media channel, or we cannot go knocking everybody's door. So the question is, let's ask, how come, generally, the Attorney General's statement that it was an error for President Mahama to go to court engaged the media's attention and discussion more than something that is an existentialist threat? You see, so the GBA hasn't kept quiet on major issues. The GBA has, let me use the word inverted commas, censored on issues. And when it becomes very, maybe at a time that is not on the, it's not on the front burner, people, the GBA has said something that's not important. But when it becomes a very topical issue, then people are now blaming the GBA for keeping quiet when the GBA would have taken the lead. So when it comes to Galamsey, I don't think that there's anybody, any professional body or civil society, but that had spoken about these things. But look, it actually started when my predecessor, Benson Nukchukwu, was in office.
Yeah.
It was in 2016 that the first GBA statement on Galamsey, at the time that it had not reached this level, the GBA spoke about it. So today, Latter-day Saints are telling the original Jews that they don't know Christ. We hear. But the thing is that in 2016, Benson Nukchukwu started talking about it, and Tony Forson followed it up. But the two presidents ahead have started it. So when people say the GBA has kept mute, I don't know what we're talking about. Okay. We started it in 2016. Go and check the records. At the time that it had not reached this level. So when somebody says that the GBA has kept quiet. But MFA, let's look at some of these things. Okay.
I was hoping you could tell me what the stance is today. I was hoping you could tell me what the stance is today as we speak. At least reiterate what the stance is what I was hoping that will happen. But I've heard you blame the media. I've heard you blame the media for not highlighting what the GBA stance is. Right now, the media is giving you the opportunity. What is the stance of the GBA now? I've given you all the opportunity. What's the stance of the GBA?
The stance of the GBA is the stance that was started by Benson Nukchukwu and continued to Forson and to Boafo, that Galamsey poses an existentialist threat to us. We cannot sit idly by and see this thing happen. But the point is, this thing at the periphery, where we go raid some hands being paid 100 or 200 cedis to maybe do the Galamsey. These people are using excavators. Yeah. How many of those people can even apply the excavators? There's clear anecdotal evidence that, listen, these Galamsey things are controlled by forces. Professor Kwesi and Cole have shown there's now even becoming a transnational organized crime. And the state must fish up this evil axis. I actually use that phrase, evil axis, to deal with them. Because one thing that we also should understand is that Galamsey is not a talking issue, it's an action issue. If we organize fora, we organize workshop, the GBA keeps on talking about it, and the security agencies and the government is going to have inaction, we will not have done our work. So we were the ones that called for the government to go beyond those who are arrested on the mine sites. Because seriously speaking, we have people importing excavators in this country. Okay. Petrol tankers have tracking devices fitted in them. What stops us from fitting tracking devices in excavators so that at any given time we'll know where excavators are? These are the things that we've been telling governments to be doing. Okay. And we started it way, way, way in 2016. Okay.
Well, I'll take you now to the issue about the politicization of the Bar Association. I saw that you were shaking your head, but of course, maybe it may be a perception, but that is out there. At least I'm bringing that to your attention, that it appears that the GBA more like now a branch of the NPP. You've talked about the fact that it's because of the likes of some of the criticism that have come in. That's why. But when we heard the former president talk about unanimous FC, the GBA was quick. We saw some form of condemnation amongst others. We've seen at least over the period, a number of things have happened. Godfred Yaw Boafo's case, for instance, with Richard Jakpa, amongst others, and the description of Mr. Godfred Dame of the judges in terms of the appeals court ruling that came, amongst others. Some were hoping that we will see some form of official condemnation. Did that happen?
Yes, I mean, I think Mr. Sylvia Kuje came out.
He spoke, yes, he spoke in an interview. In an interview, he did not. It wasn't, a statement that came.
But he doesn't speak for himself. He speaks on behalf of the bar.
Okay.
Whether written word
so
or
that
spoken
was
word,
unofficial.
it is criticism. And the bar's position was that we found the Attorney General's response improper, and that's the bar's position articulated by our national PR. So that's the point. But you see, MFA, the question I keep on asking is, what is a political professional body? That is a body that may have openly identified itself with this particular body. Okay. You know, let us get it straight. I have never seen any bar president in the Fourth Republic stand on any party political platform. Let me just say this thing out of as a joke. You know, the funny thing is that the only bar president who has held a cabinet position in the Fourth Republic is actually an NDC cabinet minister. But it doesn't matter. The thing is that, listen, I think that I want to be personal today. The reason why this criticism sticks now is that everybody knows that Yaw Boafo's father is a prominent politician. So it's a low-hanging fruit attack, it's going to stick. The thing is that the GBA is never an appendage of any party. And at times I ask myself, who is an NDC bar president and who is an MPP bar president? By what yardstick would you determine that the GB has become political? Because I'm going to tell you something. I've not seen any bar president at any event. I will use my own personal experience. In November 2022, yes, I was in the UK with my father. He was the former chairman of the UK MPP branch. He was being honored. My own father, I didn't even show up there because I can't be seen there. Okay. So the issue is, I'm yet to see any GBA president. And the point is, I have never heard of anybody campaigning GBA president that vote for me because I'm MPP, vote for me because I'm NDC. Trust me, if you do that, the bar is not even going to listen to you. But this thing about the bar being very political, somebody makes a statement. Makes a statement in this country. And as I said, people don't subject it to critical, and it becomes like chant, everybody's thing. I want to know what is a political bar, because I'm yet to see the MPP conference, seeing the GBA having representation there. I'm yet to see the bar openly identify itself. But if you go to Parliament today, our members, they are members of our profession, who are both in MPP and in NDC. You know, law and politics always have a symbiotic relationship. Okay. So how do you, by what metric, at times this accusation, MFA, let's say, what is the metric that we are used to determine that the GBA is an MPP appendage? I don't get it. You know, it's something that at times, you know, it goes on, people keep on reciting it, and nobody stops out to say, oh, this thing that we're saying, does it really add up empirically? Because I have been, since I was called to the bar in 95, I've attended every bar conference, save 97 in who. I have never one day even seen any bar president standing up on the saying that we today going to vote for NDC or MPP. Okay. I've never heard the bar issue a statement asking its members to vote for this political party. The bar never does that. This thing about the bar being in league with MP, what is the empirical evidence? Okay. Because we are spread across the political divide. So it's something that people keep on saying it. And I think it keeps on saying, but no, people who say it, I just stop, ask yourself, how does somebody become MPP? Because what I know is that let me put a few NDC, the person.
Sorry to cut you there, but let me bring in a few of the issues for which reason that criticism comes in.
NDC, the person must openly identify with that political party. And I've never seen any bar president do
Okay. So just recently, the Nigerian Bar Association invited John Dramani Mahama to the annual conference this year. And the concern is that, at least for over the period, we've seen that President Akufo-Addo has been the only person that, at least the only president that, addresses the bar conference almost every year since he's been in office. And also the criticism that that arrangement, together with the Attorney General, it more like becomes a campaign platform for them. This is an issue that you addressed earlier. But is it the case that, or is part of your constitution such that is willed to the president in power to address the conference? Maybe you can give us some clarity there.
No, you see, let's get this thing clear. The first lawyer to democratically elected as President J. Kufuor, he was never invited to the bar conference when he was in office. President Mills is the next lawyer he was never invited. President Mahama was not invited. In 2017, when President Nuchupuyi was in office, the Bar Council took a decision that the current president is the first member of council to get to the high office of president. Now, let's get the thing straight. When President Akufo-Addo was then the opposition leader, nobody invited him to speak. So we don't have a convention of inviting opposition leaders to speak. At the GBA level, we don't have it. Okay. Now, the point is that it was in 2017 when the bar took a decision that the first member of council, because President Akufo-Addo was the Greater Accra Bar President, member of council, he actually even filed to contest in the 95 president. But because at that time he was going to be MP for Buakwa, I think North or South, I've forgotten, he was so exposed, he withdrew. The bar actually asked him to withdraw, and he withdrew because he was too exposed. That shows you how the bar is. And the point was also, it was an invitation extended to him because he's the first member of the General Council of the bar to become president. Before him, we've had two presidents, one MPP, one NDC. None of them was invited. And in the history of the bar, we have never invited anybody as opposition leader. So when Nana Akufo-Addo was opposition leader, he never, ever was invited, but he attended the opening ceremony as a member. Okay. So when as Attorney General, he was with us. When he was Foreign Minister, he would attend the opening ceremony. So the issue is that we don't have that tradition. So when President Mahama was invited by the Nigerian Bar, that's the Nigerian Bar's thing. I was also invited to that conference, a panel speaker. It's a Nigerian Bar decision to invite President Mahama. So that is the NBA conference. We don't have that tradition. Okay. So when President Akufo-Addo was the opposition leader, if we had invited him, then you could have said that the bar is thing. But then are we bound by what the Nigerian bar does? No. Okay. We also have the way we do our things here. So that, you see, these are some of the unfair allegations made against the GBA. Because as I'm saying, President Mills was not invited, President Kufuor wasn't. They were lawyers. President Akufo-Addo, when he was opposition leader, was never invited to speak. But it was something that was decided in 2017 because he's the first member of the General Council of the Bar to end up as president. Okay. That's the reasoning behind it. So it's better people ask questions instead of accusing us falsely.
Is it fair accusation also, for instance, that the Attorney General, Minister of Justice, will also be speaking at this year's conference because of all the controversy that has come up, at least caught on tape, speaking to an accused person, at least that tape was made public amongst others. Some have said, have actually questioned why the Attorney General, Minister of Justice will be speaking at this bar conference.
There's a difference between the office of the Attorney General and Godfrey Yabuada, as far as the bar is concerned. Since the GBE was formed, the Chief Justice and the Attorney General always address conference. The formal opening is by the Chief Justice, and it's to the office.
But if it is about the office, then, if it's about the office, Mr. Boafo, if I may briefly cut in, if it's about the office of the Attorney General, they are deputies. Considering that he has been caught on tape on this particular issue and the controversy. General, no matter you can ask Marietta Brew whether during her time she was there was a year, but in 2015 I was regional president in the same city. She had traveled and she delegated Dominic Ayine to speak on her behalf.
So if you ask Marita Brew, Betty Mold Idrusu, check with them. Every Bar Martin Amidu, every Attorney General, every Chief Justice is invited. It's something that has been there since 1957 when the GBA was formed. Every conference we invite the present Attorney General. I remember when Dr. Obeda Sama was Attorney General, Dr. Martin Amidu did it, and in 2000 in Tamale, when we went to Tamale, Dr. Obeda Samoa had time and he came to address us. Okay. So it is not something that is.
So considering the controversy, Mr. Boafo,
so personally, every bar conference.
Personally, if I were to ask you, considering all the controversy that has come up involving Mr. Godfred Yeboah-Dame himself, would you say he should delegate someone else to address this year's conference?
No. You see, we have invited the Attorney General.
Okay.
And the invitation is strictly to the Attorney General, just as we've invited the Chief Justice. For example, when we went to Ho in 2022, CJ Yeboah was out of the country. He delegated the most senior Supreme Court judge at the time, Justice Jones Duche, to come and represent him. In 2019, CJ Sophia Kufu was not around, and he delegated Justice Julius Ansah to come in. So the issue of the delegation is not at all. Yes, we can't tell the Attorney General what to do.
I was only asking you a personal question.
On the issue of the Attorney General.
I was asking you personally, if you were to advise.
Yes, the issue of the Attorney General. Attorney General, in 2016, when we were at Tamale, Sunyani, it was an election year. Marietta Brew, as Attorney General, addressed the. So it doesn't matter. For us, is the Attorney General who is invited. If for some reason he, the Attorney General or the Chief Justice, is unavailable and wants to delegate another person, it's a decision taken by the occupant of the office at the time. The GBA cannot dictate to the Attorney General and the Chief Justice. But
is leadership concerned, for instance, about the controversy that he has been caught in? I was asking if you are concerned as leadership
about the controversy.
Yes, the controversy that the Attorney General found himself in, especially speaking to an accused person caught on tape and the issues that came up.
See, MFA, there are two things. On that issue, the matter, immediately this issue came, a very experienced counsel in Tadu Sori filed an application before the court for mistrial based on the contents of that tape. So immediately a matter is pending before court. If there is any association that should know the effect of it, it was going to be the GB.
Okay.
But when it comes to the issue of his response to the Court of Appeals decision, we rightly condemned him that, look, when you decide to appeal, that's the thing. You cannot come and start saying that judgments are perverse and that one we stated our position. But you see how the Attorney General does his judgment. So the issue for us is that on the Jakpa matter, immediately the tape came out, it became the subject matter of an application for mistrial. And you want the GBA to issue a statement in relation to pending proceedings. You know, you see, MFA, one thing that people must understand is that the GBA will not do populist things just to get validation. We'll do what is right and what is legal. Because as lawyers, we have a training, and our training supersedes our personal views and our political. If an Attorney General speaks to an accused person, and it's not the subject matter of court proceedings, that will be a different matter.
Okay.
But when that thing happens, naturally you're going to have our politicians talk. They have the liberty to do. But the GBA issue a statement in relation to pending proceedings. That would be too embarrassing for us to even association to consider ourselves ethically. So what binds us is different. It's different from what binds those who make comments.
Okay.
So that for me is a thing. But as to the Attorney General, we invite every Attorney General, every Chief Justice, every year, irrespective of the party that is in power. I'm
pleading with my producers to give us a bit of time because I see a number of questions that have come in that I would want to run you through them at this point. So first off, I would want to find out, maybe in wrapping up, do you think that you are leaving a stronger bar association than you met it 3 years ago?
You know, I'm not engaged in a competition with my predecessors. You know, you come, you do your bit, and at times, every period demands a different type of leadership. But one thing that I want people to understand is that people keep on saying that the GBA has lost its relevance or whatever. But our numbers at the conference and our participation keep on increasing. So I think that, look, people should criticize us, but people should understand that the Ghana Bar Association is a professional body. Protection of human rights is one of our aims. We're a professional body. But we are not puppets that we're going to be controlled by puppets masters. We don't need validation from those individuals.
Okay.
We will do what is right by the council. Because you see, unlike other institutions, our decision making goes through a process. We have the NEC, the council, at least, regularly, to deal with these decisions. So the idea that a bar president is going to be buffeted by populist demands on that individual is not going to work. And you see, for me, at times I look at it and I'm looking at it from the times of Senior Kwame Tete coming down to now. What has Yaw Boafo done really different from Kwame Tete, Frank Bicham, and Neil Samuels? It's just that's how we find ourselves in. But I think that because of my surname, at times it's easier for you to stick certain things on me than other presidents.
Okay. There's an issue that maybe we'll have to deal with quickly. Has there been any efforts, you would say, to address the potential splinter groups arising from the Bar Association? Already we are seeing Law Society, we are seeing NDC Lawyers Association, many of them saying peeved as a result of the situation in the Bar Association, so they are thinking of forming new groups. Has that been brought to your attention? Is there any effort to whip them all in line?
There's no splinter group at the bar. There's no splinter group at the bar because all the members of these associations that you mentioned are all members of the Ghana Bar Association.
Okay.
For me, if somebody decides that the political party that they belong to, the lawyers in, want to come together for their foster their interest, there's nothing wrong if a lawyer engages in politics. It's not against our ethics. So that for me, but all the members of those associations are all members of the Ghana Bar Association. Their names are on our portal. And we've seen some of them in Kumasi participating in our conferences. So there's nothing like a splinter group. A splinter group is where people break away permanently.
You don't see that happening, right? You don't see that happening.
If you ask any...
You don't see that happening.
Well, what I'm saying is that, whether that is going to happen, I don't have clairvoyant powers. But what I'm saying is that all these, you have to understand that there are specific needs. Just like people saying we form the commercial bar or the general practice bar to cater for our peculiar needs.
Okay.
There are a group of lawyers who are members of a political party. That's right. And they decide that, listen, let's come together as a group, as a party, so that we can help our political party pursue its agenda. That's a legitimate thing. But they're members of the Ghana Bar Association.
Okay.
There are some lawyers who have formed organizations because they believe that certain issues thing. But none of them have said that, look, we've ceased being members of the Ghana Bar Association. Because as I'm talking to you now, members of the NDC Lawyers Association have arrived in Kumasi. They are at Harbour Night. They are preparing to come and participate. We see them all the time at our conferences. We engage them. You see, most people should understand that at the bar, this schism between the political MPP and NDC doesn't happen with us. We sit down, we do our cases, we work together. Because, look, they are very senior members of political parties, known political parties, who hold offices at the bar. And nobody at the bar tells them that, look, because you are MPP, because you are NDC. So there's no splinter group at the bar. The bar is a united body. But of course, people will have their own personal interest that they will. I
wanted to know what your most profound legacy is. But considering the time that I have, I would want to find out if you have a horse in the race. Is it a Jakpasu or a Gate? Who's your horse in this race?
You see, one thing you have to understand is that the immediate past president remains a member of the National Executive Committee. I don't have a preferred candidate because I have to work with any person that the bar chooses. Because in our constitution, I remain as immediate past president. That's Mr. Forsen is for the 3 years that my successor would be at the helm of affairs. So the worst thing for me to do is to show my preference. I wish both candidates well. Both of them are eminently qualified to lead the bar, and I'm prepared to work with anybody that association thing. And I think that it would even be insulting to my colleagues for me to behave like some village chieftain, politician, and tell them, look, vote for this person. I think I will even dent the chances of that individual. But there's a stronger bar that will come out after 11th September. And both of them that the bar settles on, each of them is eminently qualified to lead the bar.
And you technically wrapped it all for us. I know that you'll be talking about peaceful elections tomorrow during the conference, so we'll definitely keep our eyes on that. But Mr. Boafo, we are indeed grateful for your time here tonight here on The Probe. We'll catch up with you again in Kumasi during the conference. We are grateful. That's Yaw Boafo, is the outgoing president for the Ghana Bar Association. Thank you so much. And that's it for tonight's edition of The Probe. I am Emefa Apau. There's more when you log on to myjoyonline.com. Have a good evening.